Hi everyone, Derek Thomas here, and before we get started on today's episode, as you well know, the Notch 6 podcast is a free podcast, but that doesn't mean it's free to produce. And the way we're able to produce this show for free is your support of projects such as the Madison Poster Company and the Madison Hardware T-shirt project. Many of you have already supported these projects. It's projects like these and your support of these projects that keep this show free, and the reality is we intend to keep this show free forever. So, if you haven't heard about these projects yet, the Madison Hardware Shirt Project, I'll tell you more about down the road, but the Madison Poster Project, we have a license from Lionel to reproduce Lionel's D145 dealer display poster, and we've done this poster in two sizes now, a big 7-foot poster that's a limited edition of 200, no more than 200. It comes with a signed certificate of authenticity from Howard Hitchcock, who's the president of Lionel. We also offer a small 4-foot by 1-foot poster that's great for an office den or anywhere that you want to hang it to show off your love of Lionel trains. To find out more about these posters, check them out at madisonposter.com. That's madisonposter.com. Hey, thanks again so much for supporting these projects and the Notch 6 podcast. We hope you enjoy the show.
The following is a production of Notch 6 Media.
It's the Notch 6 online podcast, episode number 42. In this episode, if you've ever thought about having a custom run of O-gauge trains built, well, then you're about to get the full inside story on what it takes to make the project happen from start to finish. We'll follow the story as a group out of Indianapolis races to have MTH build them a custom Monon passenger set and all the ins and outs that it takes to make a custom run of trains happen. It's all ahead on this episode of Notch 6.
This is the Notch 6 online podcast. Notch 6 is the podcast dedicated to O-gauge trains. Whether you're collecting, operating, or just getting started, Notch 6 is your home for O-gauge news, events, and interviews. Now here is your host, Derek Thomas.
Well, welcome to another episode of Notch 6. Whether you're brand new to this hobby, whether you've done this for a long time, or you're somewhere in between, you're tuned into the only show in the world that is dedicated to O-gauge trains. I'm Derek Thomas, so glad to have you along for another episode. Along with me today for this part of the show, my son Henry is in studio. So if you hear a couple of little thumps in the background or some little bells tinkling, he's hanging out on his activity mat while we do some work, and we get ready to share with you a really neat story about having a custom run of trains done by MTH. That's coming later in the show. What's been going on in our world since the LCCA convention wrapped up? Well, for me personally, it's actually been a relatively quiet month, which is nice. We're sitting here kind of not gearing up for York yet, but still already thinking about it. Obviously, Madison Poster Company is going to have a lot to do at York. Notch 6 will have a lot to do at York. So that's another month down the road. We've got some other things in the pipeline that we can share a little bit with you on. One of the really neat things is the Lionel LCS system, specifically the Wi-Fi box and the iPhone app, is just around the corner. And in September, we're going to have an entire show dedicated to that app. Yeah, you can hear Henry in the background. He's excited about it too. We're going to have an entire show dedicated to that app, how it works. And we actually have the app in-house already, and we've started playing with it. And oh man, what an exciting piece of technology. So we'll have that full show for you in September. For me personally, I've actually gotten some time to work on my layout within the last few weeks. One of the new things that we're doing with the layout, and I'm sure like most other folks that have a layout that listen to the show, one of the things that we're already, working on is trying to figure out how to get more space out of our layout. And so that's always the challenge, is how do we get more space out of the space we have allotted? Well, one of my big challenges is I've started to build kind of a city scene, or it'll actually be more of a park scene. And one of the challenges has been, well, where do I fit all of these park items in large buildings, such as the Lionel Aquarium building? I have a big, mansion-style building that's going to kind of be the centerpiece of this park area. One of the things I've never liked about my layout is the fact that we have a pressure tank for our well in the corner of the basement, and that pressure tank has always kind of been an eyesore. So what I decided to do was actually build up and above the pressure tank. So I'm in the process of building a raised platform that goes up and above the pressure tank that will add some height to the layout, that'll kind of give this raised park scene a really nice focal point in the center of the layout. And so I guess one of the things that I would pass on to our listeners, if you're looking for more space out of your layout, one of the things that you can always do is build up. Most of us, I've been really guilty of this on the last few layouts that I've done, is I've always had a relatively flat layout, not too many inclines, not too many raised platforms. But some of the best layouts I've ever seen, use a lot of vertical space to do scenery and to run trains. And so I challenge you, if you're looking for more space on your layout, look at ways that you can build up. And you'd be surprised how much space you find. So I went ahead and constructed the platform, and now the pressure tank is hidden, and we'll use some mountains to kind of hide the sides of the platform, and I'll have to post a few photos of it on our Facebook page as we keep moving forward on it. But the nice thing is it leaves enough room for me to get under the pressure tank. If the pressure tank needs to be serviced or replaced, there's room to service it underneath this platform, to take it apart and to move it out from under the layout when it will have to be replaced. Because if you've ever owned a pressure tank on a well, eventually it's going to go south, and eventually you're going to have to replace it. So that's what's been going on the layout. And like I said, I'll try and shoot a few photos of that and post it on the Facebook page. That's something I haven't been that great about, is showing people photos of my own layout. I think it's something that I've just been self-conscious about. We get so used to seeing these magazine layouts, and it's just like, mine doesn't look too much like that. No, maybe no one will really want to see this. Anyway, I'll try and get better about posting photos of our layout on the Facebook page. So something else I want to talk about before we get into the meat and potatoes of this show is the Madison Hardware shirt project. First off, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who ordered during the first run. Really blown away by the number of shirts that we sold, and everything that we've heard so far from folks has been really positive now that everybody has their shirts. So thank you so much to everybody who ordered a shirt during the first run. If you missed out on a shirt and you still would like a Madison Hardware t-shirt, well, you will have a second opportunity. We're going to do a second run of the shirts during York, probably the second and third week of October. You'll have a new selection of colors available to you, as well as some of the best-selling colors from the first run. So look for that during the second and third week of October, and I'm sure we'll talk about it during the York podcast here on the show. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we need to cover. Henry, do you have something to add? Henry is now sitting at the desk with me, and I tell you what, me and Dad has been great, and so excited to introduce him to the world of O-gauge trains. Actually, something exciting happened in Henry's world today. He got inducted as a junior member of the LCCA. His membership card just showed up today, so I'm sure he will appreciate that somewhere down the road. So, well, we'll leave it at that for this month. We're going to jump right into the story now about having a custom run of MTH engines and passenger cars done in the Monon paint scheme. And three guys have been working on this project. Steve Nelson, better known as Mr. Muffin, is the main guy. But you'll also hear from Bill Davis and Nobel Lugo, who are members of the TCA Indianapolis division. And these three guys, along with a bunch of other people, have worked very tirelessly to get this custom run of passenger cars and engines done, and they're supposed to arrive in November, but I'll let them tell the story to you. So without any further ado, if you've ever wondered what it takes to get a custom run of passenger cars and engines done, you're about to find out. So sit back, relax, put it in Notch 6, here we go.
This is Notch 6, your first source for breaking news and in-depth interviews in the world of O-gauge.
Well, welcome back to the Notch 6 online podcast. Today we're going to take a look at something that if you've ever wondered what it looks like when your favorite hobby shop has a custom run of product done, well, today we're going to take an in-depth look at that, and we're going to follow a specific product. This specific product is a Monon passenger set, and this project is being spearheaded by three gentlemen with a host of other people that have been involved along the way. The three guys that are spearheading this project, you already know one of them. His name is Steve Nelson, better known as Mr. Muffin. The other two guys who have been instrumental in this project are Bill Davis and Nobel Lugo, who are part of the Indianapolis chapter of the TCA. Guys, welcome to the show. We're excited to talk about this product.
Thank you.
That was a nice chorus. Good job, guys. So let's start from the very beginning, because I think a lot of folks, have dreamed at one time or another, oh, hey, I have this great idea for a product. But it's one thing to have an idea for a product. It's a whole nother thing to have it get made. Whose brainchild was this, and how did this project get started?
Well, we've been looking at the Monon engines that have been coming out. The engines that were really synonymous with the Monon were not really correctly made. And we wanted to go back and find out exactly what happened with the Monon. We wanted to just make one exactly as it was made in 1946.
Did this whole thing start just as a conversation around the shop one day, or how did you decide, okay, we think we have something here that's worth producing?
We've been talking about the Monon, and matter of fact, I talked to Mike Wolf one time while I was at York, and several other people in Lionel, and basically nobody wanted to do it. So I passed it over to Bill, and Bill says, we need to have a Monon because they don't have one that is properly done in the red and gray. So, or red, gray, and black for Bill. And that's where we started from.
That's where we started.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. So this didn't just happen overnight. This has been an idea that you guys have kicked around for a while.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, there's an artist print hanging up here at Mr. Muffin's Trains of that paint scheme in the Monon, and I think our first conversation was because I had that print hanging on the wall, and we start, it's the only piece of artwork, only trade artwork I have hanging up at the place. And so there was some conversation, probably something like, hey, you like the Monon too? And I'm like, heck yeah, wouldn't it be nice to have those engines? And we've been thinking that for a long time. And so we sat out here and started kind of talking about how that would be. Wouldn't that be cool to do? And away we went. So, and as you know, we started talking to MTH and to see if they would support something like this. They've never done a custom run of this size. It's always been single pieces, a single diesel or whatever. And that's not what we wanted. So we wanted a whole trade. So we started, kind of lobbying them to, hey, would you work with us? Would you give us some help?
Okay.
When Lou and Bill were able to bring to the table a lot of people that knew something about the Monon passenger trains, and people that had line drawings, people that had color chips. So we were able to ask for their help so we could get this thing as right as we could get it. Get it exactly the way it was made as best we could. And so we're all ears. Anybody had an opinion, we wanted to hear it. And people from the Indiana Transportation Museum came down to visit us, and we had folks from Lafayette that physically owned the drawings came down to see us, and so we could all get together around it and reach a consensus. Sometimes history is an opinion. We have to reach a consensus on what do we think the actual facts were. And that's just been a wonderful process. I certainly have learned a lot. I mean, these guys know a lot about the Monon I didn't know. I was born and raised here in town. I'm very familiar with the Monon, but I just learned a lot through this whole process. So,
Let's talk for a second. I want to hear from everybody. Obviously, to go out and do a custom run of a very, well, I won't call it an obscure line, but the Monon isn't something that everybody thinks of off of the top of their head. What's everybody's, in this group, I want to hear from everybody and just kind of let me know what draws you guys to the Monon. Is it memories of growing up in Indiana, or why pick Monon?
Well, the Monon was actually a large running train in the 1800s, and it went all the way down to Florida. That's the first part. But then it shrunk up, and it was only for regional use for many years. And they had a line that went to Louisville. They had a line that went to Chicago. And then they had some lines that transpired across the states into Illinois. Other than that, it was a homegrown. You'd see the Monon coming through. The Monon actually painted their steam engines for the IU games, the Purdue games. I have the pictures in black and white of those types of trains. But what really brought it along was the colleges that went through, and you had the Wabash, you had not Wabash, Wabash College. You had the people over in Greencastle. So we had a lot of school people that were going to across the state to wonderful places, and the Monon was their primary delivery system. People coming into Bloomington, that was there from all over the state. So it was a line that was really seen a lot by the people of Indiana.
Yeah, then for me, this is Bill, my grandfather worked for the Monon, his entire life. He had every job in the Monon, and I've been the curator of all of the Monon family things, heirlooms, for everybody in the family, and I've collected it really since the 70s, HO being that, and trying to collect each piece and things, and that kind of was my fascination, and of course riding the trains from Indianapolis to Chicago was another big thing there too. That's how I got interested in it, why I like it, and why I have so many different pieces of Monon.
Steve?
Oh, I mean, I grew up here in town, as we said, and lived in Meridian Kessler, and of course, Monon ran down through Broad Ripple. I went to Broad Ripple High School. I mean, we got to see the engines, and I think, I think you would agree it's a very attractive paint scheme. I mean, we've got people ordering sets from around the country that they've never friggin' lived in Indiana. They think it's a beautiful set. It's beautiful paint, and you can't help but like it. It's just very attractive.
It is a very striking set, and we'll go ahead and we'll post some photos of the pre-production artwork on our Notch 6 Facebook page, and the TCA Indy page has some pre-production artwork samples, and Mr. Muffin's page has it as well. So 3 avenues on Facebook that you can check out to see exactly what this set looks like. Steve, tell me about your early conversations with MTH. Were they receptive to the idea? What did those early conversations sound like?
I think they were very receptive to the idea. I think, they wanted me to understand, the significance of doing this. That you're not going to do 5 sets. I mean, we're going to need to do quite a few. It's a pretty big financial commitment, and so they were a little, I think out of the gate were like, okay, you sure, you guys, want to do this? And we signed up for 100 sets, basically. I think once we got past, are we okay with that? And, I've had a long relationship with MTH as a customer before we ever opened Mr. Muffin's Trains. I've known these people, and I'm a businessman, and they know that. And so we were able to have some really frank conversations about, getting their help on marketing and, the importance to us of getting it right. We didn't want the nitpickers to pick at us. We spent a lot of time, like, on the drum head, getting the drum head right, for example.
The builder plate.
Yeah, the builder plate. Oh, my gosh.
The builder
they wanted to, it's got a prototype builder plate on it. We Lou was able to figure out who the bank was that loaned him the money. He got the correct builder plate on it.
It was one of the blueprints that the guy from Lafayette.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
It was wonderful. So they were very serious about wanting to get it right. We were too. They have their own research libraries, and there were times we didn't agree on color and other things that we had to kind of push, with our expertise here in the Midwest. Sometimes they would rely on an HO model, and we had to say, no, that model's not right. That's what we're trying to avoid. And so that was pretty fun, but, we were talking about it before we got on the phone with you. I mean, they have just been a great partner on this and very cooperative, very enthusiastic. They put an enormous amount of effort into artwork. We've had a lot of iterations, taken a lot to get it right, so they've been great.
Let's dig into the meat and potatoes a little bit of the specifics of this set. Can you guys tell me what all this set consists of and what trains the set is based on? We decided when we were here together, and that was part of the discussion, all of us around the table, because there's several Monon passenger trains, and we kind of settled on the Thoroughbred because it ran through all the college towns. If you were an out-of-state student traveling to Indiana to go to school, you traveled into Chicago and you took the Thoroughbred to campus, whether it was IU or Purdue or DePauw or Wabash or whatever, St. Joe's. I mean, all those schools were on the Monon. And so I think we, as a group, really loved that, Yep. So we all agreed, hey, we're going to do Train 5 and Train 6. I mean, that's Train 5 from Chicago South and Train 6 back north. And we might do another one someday, with the more modern paint scheme. But we thought the first one would be the Thoroughbred. And I'm sitting here reading the spec sheet that you guys sent me just to kind of give our listeners a little bit more background on the Thoroughbred. As Steve said, it was trains 5 and 6 operating Chicago to Louisville. This was the longest lived of the Monon varnish trains, lasting until September of 1967. And usual consists for this train was a baggage, an RPO coach, a cafe lounge, parlor car. And the neat thing about this set was when the train was retired, the Monon management really sent it out in style. And actually, it was the brand new Alco C420s that the Monon had purchased that were on the head end of this last train when the Thoroughbred was retired in 1967. So a train with a storied history. Can you tell me what all will be included in your set? It's obviously an F3 set, and then there's some passenger cars. Tell me about the specifics. Well, one of the things we talked about at the beginning was we didn't need a B unit. That train never ran with a B unit. I think we had somebody in the group, if I remember right, correct me, that Monon had purchased the B unit, but then repainted it in black and gold and put it into freight service. Right. So it never ran in passenger service. So, one of the first things we told MTH is we don't want a B unit. I mean, first of all, it would reduce the price if we didn't have them make a B unit. And secondly, we wouldn't have to answer questions from everybody calling us going, why the hell is this got a B unit? Yeah, so I think MTH finally said, so you're telling me it's the embarrassment that factor more than it is the economics. So it's it's 2 A units, both with 2 motors, PS3, and it's Premier. We had one guy call and say, well, that looks like a real King to him, but no, it's a Premier engine with all the Premier detail, all the wire grabs, and Lou got the colors right on all that, and made sure that was right. And a Premier engine, that it's the 2 headlight version, which is what we wanted, and we spent a lot of time on that. Because we were told several times we couldn't have 2 headlights. And then in the last 30 days or so, we finally got that fixed. So we got a 2 headlight mold, so it'll, with the Mars light, will match the real deal. And then we wanted the 5-car set. I mean, obviously we did have to compromise on 6-wheel trucks. You want to talk a little bit about how the Monon made those cars?
Well, actually, the Monon made cars from the old hospital carriers that were used during the war. but they had to be converted. So during the time period from 46 to 47, 46 to 49, there was a lot of Monon used the previous Pullman cars to move passenger service. But when in 1947 they put out the first one, there was a great ceremony in Louisville, and then they went up to Chicago to do the same ceremony. That was a great opening for it.
And you already mentioned the consist, so the 5-car MTH set, approximates the real deal, not 100%. And then we wanted an RPO, and MTH was like, what? You guys aren't happy with the 2 engines of the 5-car set? No, we need an RPO. This engine always ran with an RPO. Lou came up with a photograph showing the RPO clearly, and we had to have an RPO. So that took a little bit of negotiating.
Yep.
You were kidding me. No, we got to have an RPO.
Then we need the drum head.
Yeah, we needed the drum head. That was fun. Trying to get the drum head right. There was not going to be a drum head originally, and they were pushing back on the drum head, and we were able to come up with some artwork, show what it looked like, and they brought back an HO prototype. The lettering was all wrong. And Lou quickly pointed out, that's an HO drum head. I've seen that before. That's not the R drum head. And they finally engineered a drum head for us, and which was terrific. So it's, 2 A's, an RPO, and a 5-car set. That's our set, thoroughbred.
Wow, it sounds like it's going to be a great set. And from what I'm hearing, it sounds like there's a lot of give and take when you work on this kind of quantity of set and with a manufacturer. It almost seems like there's a dance that has to take place so that everybody ends up happy. Is that right?
Yeah, I think they wanted to get it right too. They were they wanted the accolades for doing a good job on this project, and they were trying to, protect us from making mistakes. There were a lot of issues with the paint color because the documentation for the paint color was a lead-based DuPont paint that's no longer made, and there's no translation table that tells you, hey, that automobile paint color that was lead-based is equivalent to this Pantene color today. And so we spent a lot of time, by the way, I'm colorblind, so these guys were huge. The whole team getting involved with the paint to try to get the paint right, and that was fun. And that's where the Transportation Museum guys helped. They came down and brought some of their paint chips and to try to help us. We're passing back and forth basically PDFs, and of course the colors aren't right. They're printed on a digital printer, and so we're constantly looking at things that aren't true, and it took a long time to work our way through on the paint colors to get the paints right. Red was actually easy. I thought the red would be the hardest. The red was the easiest one to figure out. The grays were killers.
Yeah. The red is Coca-Cola red. That's how.
Really?
Yeah, and what we discovered in doing this research, I think Lou may have already known. I always thought it was IU, and the Monon folks said no, that's Wabash red. It was not. That paint scheme is for Wabash. It's not for IU.
Oh, that is interesting.
One guy said to us, "You could think a railroad headquartered in Lafayette would paint anything for IU, would you?" Wabash is red. Then once we knew it was Wabash's red, then we got to Coke red real quick, and because that's Wabash's red, and so red sorted itself out pretty fast.
The gray was the difficult.
Yeah,
because of the shade.
We were looking at pictures and realizing where the sun was when that picture was taken and what it had done to the paint. Things that you'd never think about, how to come up with how close that is, because unless you knew somebody who watched it go by and had a color chart in their hand, it's all hearsay. And by whatever pictures and however it was developed, that different color red by Kodak or whoever.
Wow. I tell you what, you guys have gone to some extraordinary lengths to get it right, and And like I said, the PDFs that you guys have been passing back and forth, I'm sitting here looking at them, and the amount of notations on these PDFs in terms of the details of getting this set put together right is amazing. I mean, there's got to be at least 100 notations of just little things, builder's plates, paint
candidly,
colors.
I mean, the majority of that credit goes to Lou. He won't take it, but getting the handrails right, getting the kick plates right, the steps. I mean, we had conversations with them because they just wanted to get it right, and so we had to talk to a lot of people and look at a lot of things. And I don't know if you can tell in there, there's a little tiny gold stripe on the edge of the white stripe, on the lower white stripe. And the artists for the engines were having trouble getting that right, but we convinced the artists for the passenger cars. That's how we kind of won the battle. And he laid that gold stripe in for us. We got it the right size. Lou signed off on it. And then once we had it, then it was a hell of a lot easier to negotiate with the engine artists.
Oh, yeah.
To say, you're going to make these engines that are not going to match the passenger cars? I mean, what are you doing? We got to have that gold stripe. It's got to turn. It's got to curve at that one spot right there. So the passenger guy came on our side here and helped to get the engine guy convinced.
There were two different artists, one for the engines and one for the passenger cars. Do I have that right?
Yeah. And then there was a third one that dealt with the drum head.
Oh, wow. So a lot of different people on the MTH side had their hands in this as well then.
Yeah.
They were great.
Okay. Let's talk about this set on the engine specifically, fully featured Proto 3. Sounds like these things are decked out to the nines, right?
Actually, we looked at the newest ones the newest PDFs, and you see the green light is on there now. So, they were doing things for us.
Yeah, we finally got them working for us.
So everything's really coming to fruition that we wanted.
I think they're supposed to give us 5 announcements. I don't know if we're still getting that. We kind of pushed them beyond the 3 they wanted to have an extra couple of announcements for different stops that we wanted. And I'm not sure, Steve, if they did.
Yeah, we're still working. Yeah, we haven't.
Working on electronic side.
Yeah, we're going to argue that next. That's our next one. As soon as we get the rest of we get the artwork side off, but we want to do station announcements for, leaving Chicago, for arriving in Monon, for Lafayette, for Crawfordsville, Bloomington, and Mitchell, Indiana. That's where the Monon exchange with the B&O. So you would, if you wanted to go to St. Louis or go west, you'd change it in Mitchell.
And a certain guy by the name of Jim Barrett wouldn't have anything to do with Mitchell getting mentioned, would he?
Oh, no.
Yeah, no.
He certainly knew a lot about the B&O and Mitchell.
I had to throw that out there. For those of you who don't know, Jim Barrett, who works for O-Gauge Railroading, grew up in Mitchell, Indiana, and he is a huge Monon fan. So for him, this set is a big deal, and I love that you guys threw the Mitchell reference in there, and hopefully you guys get it worked out.
These fellas ran into Jim in another guy's shop, and
on the way to York.
Yeah, on the way to York in the spring, and we hadn't announced this, and he was looking at an Indiana Railroad engine or something, and they said to him, "Well, I wouldn't spend your money on that because that Monon set is going to be out."
He was just
and he's like, "What?
That went back on the shelf. Here's my card. I want one.
I want a Monon." And,
what are you doing? I need to know more about it.
Yeah. So that was. So we unsold an Indiana Railroad diesel in favor of the Monons.
And I'm sure the hobby shop owner was eternally grateful to you guys. Good job.
We're getting flowers. We're getting flowers. He said his shop and we're talking about the Monon. Yeah.
Let's talk about the next steps for this set. Obviously, we're talking about a November delivery date, so things are moving rather quickly. You guys have just talked to MTH within the last couple of days, in fact, about production starting pretty quick. Where's the project at right now?
I'm not 100% certain. The sense is from the conversation is the passenger cars are already in production, and we signed off on that artwork, 6 weeks ago, roughly, and they were ready to go to production. We signed off, so they may even be done. and I know they want to put the engines in production now. The F units in this catalog were actually supposed to run next March and April, and when we came along with this set and they got excited about it, they flipped their production schedule to make these F units early so we would have them before Christmas. And
wow.
And they called back and said, hey, we really want to get these made. Let's go. We're gonna talk to the plant. We're gonna take some stuff scheduled for fall and push it into next year, and we're gonna bring the F units up. So the Sioux is in that run, and the new Western Marylands, I think, are in that run. They're making, so they moved it all up.
So if you're waiting on MTH F units, you have these guys to thank for hopefully seeing those F units before the end of 2014. So stop and say hello to them and tell them thank you.
And we're not going to tell you what they pushed back.
Yes.
No.
You don't want any calls about that.
No, that would not be good. So nobody needs hate mail over messing with the production schedule.
Yeah.
Let's talk about ordering this set. We've talked about this great set, and let's talk about what it's going to take to get it in the hands of our listeners now. 100 sets total. How many of those sets are gone at this point?
Yeah, more than half.
Okay. So if you're thinking about this set, making a decision would be very, very important and very beneficial to you in the near future, because there's a possibility that these sets will be all sold out before they even hit the States.
I think it's likely at this point that they'll be sold through. I mean, if you got to see it in order to buy one, it may be too late.
You can see it on someone else's layout.
Yeah.
There you go. So if you're thinking about this set, if somebody says, okay, Steve, Bill, and Lou, I need this set, where do they go to order the set?
Well, they can go to our online site if they want to at mrmuffinstrains.org/shop. They're welcome to call here, 317-569-1999, and we'll take your order over the phone. We are asking for a $100 deposit. And that could be a check you mail in, or we'll take a credit card. And I'd say the majority of the orders that come in over the phone are people walking in the door. Bill made a beautiful poster of the set we have hung up here in the shop, and we've had several orders just for people seeing the poster. And they somehow they don't see any of the announcements, but they see the poster, they're like, "What is this? What? Tell me about this."
Very neat.
Help, yeah.
Very neat. Okay, now I've got to ask the all-important question, is what kind of price are we talking for the entire set?
Well, the entire set is $1,209.85. Because we left the B out, we're getting the AAs for $659.95 instead of the current ADA sets are running at $749. So we saved $90 by taking the B out. And then the 5-car set is just your standard $449.95, and the RPO is $99.95. MTH did not charge us anything to do all the artwork, all the line drawings, and all the masking, and they basically paid all that themselves. They didn't roll that into the price. I was afraid that we'd have a premium price on it, but we didn't.
Very neat.
Straight list price. So
that's really nice, and we need to be very clear about the fact that this set is only being sold through Mr. Muffin's Trains. This is not something that you can hop on the MTH website and get. This is not something that you can go to another hobby store and get. This is going specifically through Mr. Muffin's Trains. So if you want one of these sets, you need to hop on their website to order it. Final question as we wrap this thing up. Now that you have kind of gone through this process of coming up with this idea, designing a set, and now that we're on the brink of manufacturing this set, would you do it again?
That wasn't that tough.
Yeah, I mean, I expect we will. Yeah, we're already talking about another set for 2015. We're not ready to talk about specifics yet, but we could be doing this for a while.
Well, you heard it from these guys here, all about making your own custom run of trains. Doesn't sound like it's that bad. Steve Nelson, Mr. Muffin, Bill Davis, and Nobel Lugo, all Monon fans at heart. And thank you so much for your guys' hard work on this set, and we can't wait to see this on the Mr. Muffins layout, hopefully in November. Thanks again, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there you have it. If you've ever wondered what it takes to get a custom run of O-Gauge trains done, now you know. And make sure that you do get those orders in as soon as possible. Those train sets are going very fast, and with a November delivery date, I think they will be sold out by the time they arrive, or there will be very few left. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Notch 6. A couple of things before we go. Number one, if you ever have any questions, comments, anything for me like that, you can get a hold of me two ways. Number one, through our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Notch6. That's NOTCH and the number 6. And if you'd like to email me, that's a possibility as well. It's NOTCH and 6 spelled out. So it's NOTCHSIX@gmail.com. Feel free to drop me an email as well, and I'll be happy to write back to you when I have a moment, or who knows, I may even give you a telephone call to discuss whatever you want to discuss with me. Thank you so much for listening to the show and being a supporter of this show. If you would, leave us a review on iTunes and Stitcher. That always helps get us noticed a little bit more. And if you have ideas for a future show, again, send it to me by email or drop it on the Facebook page, and we'll put it in line. Next month, the Lionel LCS Wi-Fi and iCab app in depth. I'm so excited to share this thing with you guys. Like I said, I started playing with it last night, and this is going to be fun. That's coming next month. We have some amazing things already lined up for October and November. Train season is just around the corner, and it's only getting better. Until then, we'll see you again, and make sure to keep it in Notch 6.
Thanks for listening to Notch 6, the only podcast dedicated to O-Gauge trains. You can find every episode on our website, notch6.com, or on iTunes and Stitcher. We'll see you again soon. Until then, be sure to keep it in Notch 6. The following has been a production of Notch 6 Media and is intended for private use only. This show may not be copied or redistributed without express written consent. This show copyright 2014, all rights reserved.